Oregon and Washington state leadership, they are in a panic that they might actually be held accountable. Washington state and Oregon state leadership, they are in a panic because they are afraid that federal troops might actually force them to, I don't know, enforce the law. Let's get into it. Here we go. Here's Seattle. Here's a take on Seattle.
For the possibility that military troops could be deployed in the city on the heels of mobilization in Portland, local leaders say activating the National Guard here is not needed or wanted, and efforts are underway to stop the federal government from any illegal overreach. This comes as Oregon's Attorney General is filing a restraining order to try and block the deployment. Overnight, 2 people were arrested during a clash outside an ICE facility in Portland. We have team coverage on this developing story. At 4:30, Tanvi Varma with our sister station in Portland shows us the situation there. Michelle Esteban has more on how people in our region are reacting to the deployment. But we start with KOMO's Joel Marino live in Seattle with what the mayor and attorney general plan to do. Joel?
Mary, Mayor Bruce Harrell says President Donald Trump's actions are un-American. And Attorney General Nick Brown, he calls the president destructive and reckless. And together, they say Seattle can take care of itself.
You know what was destructive and reckless and where Seattle could not take care of itself? Chop and Chaz. That's all you got to say. 2 black kids were murdered at a Black Lives Matter and Antifa rally, multi-rally, where they took over a big block section of Seattle. Yeah. But hey, let's forget about that. I mean, that was 5 years ago. Things have gotten better? No, absolutely not.
Images of heavily armed military troops patrolling city streets posted outside federal facilities are something local leaders say don't belong in Seattle.
Our message today is very clear. Stay out of Seattle.
Mayor Bruce Harrell and Attorney General Nick Brown denounced the planned National Guard mobilization in Portland while preparing for a similar possibility here.
And is entirely possible based on the president's comments and those in his administration that what we're seeing in Portland will be attempted here.
The Attorney General
What? Antifa is thrashing the federal building in Portland. Period. You're on like night 102 or something of Antifa just going after, firebombing, just nonsense. They brought a guillotine to the streets to mimic murdering federal ICE agents. Tell me how that makes sense. So if that's not happening in Seattle, what kind of shadows are you seeing there that don't really mimic reality? You're just making stuff up because this isn't really a threat. If you don't have what Portland has going on right now, and I think Trump is justified in sending in some troops to Portland, because Portland, if you just took care of business, which means you allowed your police force to enforce the law, this wouldn't be a problem. But you guys have to grandstand so much. Oh, what's going to happen if we have some why are you having federal troops sent in? Because you've got lawlessness in your cities. Period. Freedom of speech. That's not what Antifa's doing. That's not what Antifa's doing at all. Just look at a couple of clips of video. It's not that hard to figure out, folks. But you got a grandstand because Washington State and Seattle and Oregon and Portland are so progressive. This is progress, bringing a guillotine to the to the peaceful protest.
Says his legal team has been researching these issues for months and stands ready to challenge President Donald Trump if he orders the military into Washington.
Our team here has a great deal of experience in preparing and researching these issues, and we want to make sure that if any unlawful and unconstitutional actions happen, that we will be prepared to respond to that.
Aside from a letter a few weeks ago, the mayor says he has not received any direct communications about the Trump administration's next steps for Seattle.
But we're going to panic about him sending in the federal troops anyway. Because you know what? It's good PR. Because it's election time for Bruce Harrell. It's election time. And, yeah. This is what we're doing. We're grandstanding. We're absolutely grandstanding. Oh my God, what's happening in Portland? It could happen. It could happen in Seattle based on what? Trump has said, hey, If Seattle's a dangerous city when the World Cup comes, FIFA comes to town, maybe we move it. I mean, he's spitballing, he's throwing out some ideas. And Seattle leadership, Washington State leadership just gets all in a Twitter because that's what progressives do. They get in a Twitter over nothing.
It says the information has been out there.
We get the news like you do. Tweets, news media, news articles. There's not any direct communication to speak of.
As a result, the mayor is working on an executive order that will spell out how Seattle will protect the community and preserve local control. A task force will also be created in the event military troops are ultimately deployed.
Classic.
No insurrections here. So I repeat,
So then, Big Bad Bruce, you don't have anything to worry about, do you? So why are we talking about this in Seattle? We shouldn't be. It's just Portland right now. So simmer down. You're up here. We need you to take it down to here. Just relax, buddy. It's going to be okay.
The message to this president is very simple. Stay out of Seattle.
Yeah, the mayor says he will issue that executive order sometime later this week, so a lot more details still to come. And he emphasized that Seattle's leaders are united in protecting everyone in this community. Mary?
Well, Joel, Oregon's attorney...
Well, just as they were during Chop and Chaz, and 2 black kids were murdered. Just like that. They're going to protect everybody in the community. Well, I mean, most everybody. For the most part. I mean, and that's one of those deals.
filed a lawsuit to prevent deployment. Will there be a similar strategy if that happens in Seattle?
The Attorney General says he's got no formal plans to join that effort in Oregon, but he is in regular conversations with... Oh
my gosh. So bad. It's laughable at best, right? It's laughable at best. Pentagon calls up 200 National Guard troops after Trump Portland announcement. Well, that's because things are wildly out of control in Portland. Pentagon calls up 200 National Guard troops after Trump Portland announcement. You know what? If Portland took care of business domestically, if they just didn't allow the law to be broken night after night after night, for ICE agents to have their lives put on the line, have federal buildings just absolutely massacred with graffiti and vandalism over and over and over again, all in the name of this misnomer of free speech, then this wouldn't be an issue. We wouldn't be having this podcast. But Portland can't take care of business. Portland can't take care of business. They are incapable of enforcing the law. Look what's going on in Portland. It is anarchy. You've got just dystopian scenes of drug use. You've got shoplifting. You've got a high vacancy rate. You got businesses leaving left and right. You got a massive graffiti problem. You got a massive homelessness problem. You got a massive affordability issue. So we can take care of it. Oh, we got bookstores. Oh, it's going to be great. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on Sunday ordered 200 Oregon National Guard troops to be deployed under federal authority. All right. If there's nothing for them to do, then they'll go away. They're not coming in to, guard against the taco trucks serving up bad tacos. I'm just making up ridiculous stuff because this is pretty much ridiculous. Oregon mayors form coalition against federal troops in Portland. Let's hear what Numbnuts has to say down in Portland.
To join my fellow mayors today, and humbled by their commitments to finding common purpose in these uncertain times. By joining together, we can accomplish far more and protect our communities far better than we ever could alone.
Portland Mayor Keith Wilson and more than a...
Sorry, from what? From federal troops coming in and doing the job that you can't do? From that? Because I personally watched that in the Summer of Love. I was there. I saw what anarchy it was. I saw how destructive it was towards the federal building. And that's what Trump's talking about. So what are you talking about there, Junior? What are we talking about? And we're going to come together. Federal troops aren't coming in and just taking regular citizens off the street like Portland claimed was happening. It just wasn't true. You know what I did? I walked down from the federal building to the Justice Center, which is like 2 buildings down, or maybe the building next door. I can't remember, in downtown Portland. You got 3 parks going north to south, and you got a bunch of justice buildings right there. And I asked a cop, I said, hey, I'm hearing all these reports about these secret police in unmarked cars driving around scooping people off the streets. And he said, look up at that building right there. That's the federal building. They have cameras pointing down to the street, and they are filming people that are breaking the law against the federal building, and they are going after those folks and arresting them. Period. End of story. So all this other nonsense is just that. It's nonsense. It's political theater.
Mayors are opposing federal troops here with an open letter. They're demanding strict accountability, including badges, body cams, and
fuck that.
Force. Several mayors are military veterans and say this kind of heavy-handed force has no place on our streets.
But absolutely letting Antifa run the streets is allowed. That is allowed. You're allowing that to happen. Noise ordinances to be broken to the point where citizens are filing lawsuits because you're not allowing your police department to enforce the law. Period.
President Trump's push to send troops to Portland is the latest in his law and order crackdown. But veteran mayors like Army vet Frank Bubenek of Tualatin say the military isn't suited for policing neighborhoods.
Federal militarization does not enhance safety in peaceful areas. It creates problems where none exists.
Trump describes Portland as war-ravaged and authorized, quote, full force if necessary. For months, his administration has warned of...
And what they do there is that they scoot out of that clip, which are ICE facilities under siege from attack by Antifa. That's what he's going after. And if you look at all the footage on that, totally justified, because Portland is not doing what it needs to enforce the law. And other domestic terrorists. I'm also authorizing full force if necessary. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Go F yourself very much, Portland. I mean, you deserve it at this point, Portland. You've brought this on yourself, because if you were doing what you were supposed to do, which is follow the letter of the law, this wouldn't be happening. This misnomer that this is a freedom of speech issue is just complete nonsense.
For months, his administration has warned of expanded operations in sanctuary cities like Portland, blaming officials for not cooperating with federal immigration enforcement.
We're going to send the boots on the ground to the places that we know there's a problem.
Leaders in Oregon say they got this memo, authorizing National Guard members to, quote, perform federal functions here for 60 days.
As a U.S. Army veteran who has served in combat, not only do I know what a war zone looks like, I can assure you, Portland is not that.
The Trump administration...
Why don't you go to the ICE facility at around midnight, any night? Why don't you go there? And why don't you just walk around? Why don't you just walk around? Why don't you, better yet, why don't you record what's going on? Get out your camera, get out your phone, and start recording what's going on. See what happens. See what happens. What do you think might happen then? Yeah, I dare you.
Administration has threatened action in Maryland and Illinois and already sent forces to Memphis, LA, and Washington, D.C. It's here where National Guard members are reportedly pitching in, cleaning, landscaping, and improving public spaces all across the city.
Yes, we need help. We need help with those things to continue the good work that we've been doing in our cities.
But leaders like Air Force veteran Tim Rosner are wary that won't happen 2,800 miles away in Portland.
If Washington turns Portland into a stage for political battles, it's our families, our businesses, and communities that pay the price.
Your families, businesses, and communities are already paying the price with your progressive policies. Period. Now you need to get your ass in gear and start following the law.
reminded people these Oregon troops aren't strangers. They're neighbors, coworkers, even family. And you can support them while still standing against what they were sent here to do. That's what Hillsborough Mayor Beach...
What are they sent there to do? They're sent there to defend the federal ICE building. So that is something that is wrong? What is inherently wrong with defending the federal ICE building against Antifa? What's wrong with that? I mean, tell me. You got no answer. You got zero answer.
At West Point, lead with courage and stand with your community.
I'm here to stand in solidarity with Portland.
For context,
look at this.
Compared to last year with overall numbers nearly identical, but homicides are down 50%, aggravated assaults dropped 4%, and simple assaults are up 8%, all according to Portland police.
Okay, let's keep going. Washington leaders brace for possible federal takeover in Seattle. Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell, stay out of Seattle. What a bunch of weenies. Pacific Northwest is just filled with a bunch of scared weenies. That's what they are. They're just not. They're not real men. They're not real leaders. They're just kind of a threat, a tweet. If a tweet rocks your boat, maybe you should get out of politics. You know what I mean? Just, hey, hang it up. Hang up your hat. Go home. Call it a day. And, I don't know, pour yourself a nice Shirley Temple. I don't know what you're doing. Federal troops headed to Portland to stop Antifa-led hellfire, White House says. Look at this. Vets against oligarchy. Where's the oligarchy there, dude? You're just a liberal and you don't like Trump, and he's sending federal troops into your community because you have no ability to actually uphold the law. Look at this one. Let me get this one going. Portland isn't a war zone. It's a bookstore with a city around it. I mean, that's kind of funny. But maybe you should ask the ICE agents who are thrashed every single night by Antifa if that's their experience. Because what I am witnessing, what I have podcasted on, what I have visually watched is some extreme violence. And when they say that, Antifa is a myth, how about that old Charlie Kirk thing? He got the Antifa messages on the bullets and scripted on the bullets. I mean, you can't deny that. People have been murdered in downtown Portland by Antifa, and they went on the run, and then they got killed by law enforcement in Washington. Yeah. As federalized National Guard troops prepare to deploy in Portland, Trump administration is invoking a narrative of a city racked by Antifa-led hellfire against the federal ICE building. That's where they don't put the context in, right? It's obvious what's happening in Portland isn't protest, the White House said Tuesday in a press release. Clear, 100%. It's premeditated anarchy that has scarred the city for years. Correct. Ask any law enforcement, ask any police officer in Portland how his experience was during the summer of love and the years that came after that. Ask them, how much counseling have you had over incidents directly related to that, where your own mayor, your own governors just said, well, it's mostly peaceful. Cops are just getting maimed. It's mostly peaceful. Wink, 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 wink. Leaving officers battered, citizens terrorized, and property defaced. 100%. That is happening. That's happening. But there's this narrative that, the left just doesn't want to face. And let's face it, the entire West Coast is leftist, right? And about to get a bunch more leftist. Demonstrators have gathered in front of the U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement Building. You mean Antifa in South Portland since June to protest the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. Now, let's talk about that. So we've had an immigration crackdown. We are getting rid of the criminal illegals from our communities, and that is what we are protesting. The fact that illegals are being booted that shouldn't be here. Make that make sense. You're standing on the wrong side of the issues here. But the turnout typically amounted to a few dozen people before Trump's announcement Saturday. Well, they had a big rally, I think, on Saturday. They have these intermittent big rallies. We got a stupid big rally here in Seattle coming up. It's going to be another No Kings rally, which I find hilarious because didn't we have a presidential election? That took place, right? But we're going to go with no kings, as if Trump calls himself a king and wears a crown. You know, he got the big crown. Elected leaders and officials in Portland and Oregon have urged Trump to reconsider sending troops to the city, saying it isn't necessary. Well, then, do your job. Let your police force take care of Antifa. It would literally take about 15 minutes. Boop, done. And if you guys come back and do it this way, we're just going to arrest you all. Because invariably they break the law. Invariably they break the law. Governor Tina Kotek exchanged a series of texts with one of Trump's assistants in which she called the president's decision unlawful and unwarranted. That's what Antifa does. They do actions that are unlawful and unwarranted. So you've kind of got it mixed up here. You've got it reversed. Kotek also spoke on the phone with Trump on Saturday, a call that Trump touched on in a speech to senior military leaders on Tuesday. How about Portland, he said. Portland, Oregon, where it looks like a war zone. Absolutely. You look at the footage, I dare you to say it's anything other. All it's missing are actual bullets, right? You got smoke. You got the Antifa kids all geared up in their costumes. You got the federal troops kind of just, they're like adults. And when you're roughhousing with a kid and you just kind of put your hand down like this and you just put your hand on top of the kid's head and you just kind of, keep them going like that. That's how the federal troops are to Antifa. Antifa is just like little children. And every now and then they'll lob a grenade, they'll lob whatever. But because the federal troops can't really do anything other than this number here, Antifa does whatever they want. And they are adults. They are, so they're shooting. I mean, the whole thing is just absurd. Well, unless you're playing false tapes, this looks like World War II. Your place is burning down. I mean, you must be kidding. Sir, we have it under control, I said. You don't have it under control, Governor, but I'll check it and I'll call you back. I called her back. I said, this place is a nightmare. It's one of the worst. It's brutal. 100%. 100%. So when you bring a guillotine, is that peaceful protesting? Is that peaceful protesting? I mean, I'd say not. You know what was actually peaceful? Is all of the church services and the big events that the, folks that were mourning the loss of Charlie Kirk. So you had Fentanyl Floyd and his death, and what happened? City exploded in riots and fires and looting and all kinds of criminal activity. Charlie Kirk dies, is murdered. You know what happens? A bunch of church services. Interesting. Who's really the violent ones? Who are honestly the violent ones? Yeah, it's the left. It's the left. And you're looking at big left liberal cities, Seattle, Portland. I mean, you have to be far left in Portland and Seattle to pick up the vote. That's why Bruce Harrell is basically, the Christians are far right extremists, because there's no Christians that are going to vote for him, even though he's kind of a moderate. And up until this last run for office here, re-election, and he's had to go down that far left, talking points, because otherwise he's not going to get elected, because Seattle is reacting to the federal stuff going on with Trump. Trump actually taking responsibility for what's happening to the federal building in Portland. That's what this is. Nothing like that is happening now in Rose City, which has seen violent crime drop significantly over the past couple of years after reaching record highs during the pandemic. Well, you need to look at what's been happening at the federal building, and that's what we're talking about. So context is everything here, right? Context is everything here. Trump says he'll send troops to Portland, Oregon, and the latest deployment to U.S. cities. Good. I say good. That should happen. Authorizing full force if necessary to handle domestic terrorists. Provide all necessary troops to protect war-ravaged Portland. Under siege from attack by Antifa and other domestic terrorists. So meanwhile, Portland and Seattle, they go on this defensive because that's what they do. So Seattle is imagining things, and Portland Portland isn't willing to recognize what Antifa is doing. They're just not. Because they if they did, then they'd have to say that those 170 nights or whatever they were during the Summer of Love, where Antifa just had their way with the federal building, they'd have to recognize that all of that was illegal and totally unnecessary and not actually peaceful protests, but instead what Trump is describing here. Period. So that's what you got going on. All right. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I think Trump sends in the troops, and he's got no reason to send them to Seattle. But he's firing warning shots is what he's doing. So if something does go sideways in Seattle, which very well could happen, who knows? Maybe there's some intel out there. Hey, this could go down. All right, let's be ready. Let's be troops on the ground ready. Let's be ready to go. It's go time, boys and girls. I could see that happening. Any which way, it'll be entertaining to see how this goes. So make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.